Story number 1. House in front of a graveyard. Throughout my entire life, my parents and I have resided in a house situated right in front of a graveyard. Although there's a wooded area separating the house from the cemetery, it's not much of a distance. Whenever there were services taking place, we could hear them faintly, especially when we were in the very back of the yard. Growing up, we constantly experienced peculiar occurrences. I vividly remember one incident where I was standing in the kitchen and out of nowhere, the ice in the door dispenser began pouring out, as if someone had activated the lever. Random breakages, unexplained footsteps, and other strange happenings were common, but we had yet to actually witness shadows or apparitions until now. One particular night, as I was home alone, I strolled through the house and sensed a presence other than my own. There was someone else inside. It turned out to be my grandpa, who, due to his old age and declining health, had trouble moving around. He had progressed from Alzheimer's to dementia. Standing in the kitchen with my dad's dog by my side, I gazed down the dark hallway and immediately felt that something was amiss. The atmosphere wasn't giving off a get-out-of-here vibe, so I cautiously proceeded forward. I walked towards my grandpa's room to deliver his medication when suddenly my dog began growling and snapping at the air. Simultaneously, I caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure resembling an arm. Sensing the need to address the situation, I reassured the unseen presence that it was welcome to stay, as long as it showed respect, particularly towards the animals. Fast forward to tonight, as I stood in front of the bathroom sink washing my face. Meanwhile, my grandpa resided in his room, sporadically engaging in random conversations. Suddenly, I heard him sit up and exchange greetings with someone, as the bathroom was adjacent to his room. Intrigued, I raised my head after drying my face, and what I saw left me astounded. There before me was a white figure, taking the shape of a person, and then it vanished into thin air. The workings of the spirit would have always puzzled me. However, I can't help but be curious about how recent these spirits might be, considering that our paranormal activity tends to spike when new occupants move into the area surrounding the graveyard. Story number 2. I have this vivid memory as a kid, and nobody believes me when I tell them about it. Growing up, my life was a whirlwind of uncertainty and instability as I found myself constantly shuffled in and out of foster care. The absence of a stable family had a profound impact on my young mind, leaving me with a sense of longing and a deep yearning for a place to call home. However, when I was around 5 years old, a glimmer of hope appeared in the form of adoption. I vividly recall my first permanent week with my new family, a time that was both exhilarating and nerve-wracking. The transition brought about an overwhelming amount of stress and anxiety, making it difficult for me to find solace even in my own bed. Sleep eluded me, and when it did come, it brought with it a reoccurring nightmare that haunted me relentlessly. One fateful night, I awoke from the clutches of my reoccurring nightmare, tears streaming down my face. Sitting up in bed, I gazed into the dimly lit hallway, my heart pounding in my chest. To my astonishment, I witnessed a peculiar sight. People walking up and down the hallway, their presence both ethereal and mysterious. Amidst the parade of figures, there was one that stood out, a lady who possessed the lower body of a human, but the upper body of a shark. She glided into my room, her eyes meeting mine with a sense of familiarity and compassion. Sitting down beside me on the bed, she gently reassured me that everything would be okay and urged me to go back to sleep. From that moment on, whenever I found myself crying myself to sleep, or awakened by nightmarish visions, the shark lady would be there. She would silently appear in my room, her calming presence enveloping me in a cocoon of security. With her watchful eyes fixed upon me, she would softly utter words of comfort, assuring me that I was not alone and that I would be safe. Curiosity finally got the better of me, and I mustered the courage to confide in my adopted mother about the enigmatic presence that visited me each night. In response, she dismissed it as nothing more than a dream, an illusion of my restless imagination. However, I vividly remember the way the shark lady sat on my bed, her gaze piercing into my soul, her voice resonating deeply within me, leaving an indelible imprint. Oddly enough, despite the skepticism from my mother, the encounters with the shark lady were the only instances during my childhood where I felt truly secure within the confines of our house. While the outside world remained a tumultuous place, filled with uncertainty and constant change, the night spent under the watchful eyes of the shark lady offered me respite, a fleeting sanctuary where I could briefly escape my troubles. To this day, the memory remains etched in my mind with remarkable clarity. The images of the people pacing the hallways, their distinct features and mannerisms have not faded. I can still visualize the tall, lanky man who always seemed to be on the move, as well as the old lady with curly hair who patiently lingered near my doorway, awaiting the departure of the shark lady. The emotions that accompanied these encounters have transcended time as well. I can still feel the tinge of fear mingled with the profound sense of solace wherever the shark lady appeared. Her presence served as a beacon of hope, a reminder that there was someone who cared, someone who believed that I could overcome my deepest fears and find peace within myself. In the quiet moments of reflection, I can almost hear her voice, the soft cadence of her words echoing in the depths of my soul. It's a voice that soothes, a voice that guides me through the trials and tribulations of life. The memory of the shark lady, forever etched in my heart, serves as a constant reminder that even in the face of adversity, there are hidden sources of strength and comfort that can emerge when we need them the most. As I journey through life carrying the scars of my tumultuous past, I find solace in the knowledge that the shark lady, with her enigmatic presence and reassuring words, was not merely a figment of my imagination. She was a guardian, a protector who bestowed upon me a sense of security that shaped the person I am today. And though the years have passed, her memory remains, an enduring symbol of resilience and hope that continues to guide me on my path. Story number 3. Just happened. It was a peculiar night, a night that would forever be etched in my memory. The clock struck 2:26 a.m., the darkness embracing the room as my wife and I lay in bed, engulfed in a state of blissful slumber. Little did we know that this night would bring forth a series of inexplicable events that would leave us perplexed and astounded. Just a few days prior, we had welcomed a new addition to our family, a delightful little kitten we affectionately named Dougie Jones, a clever nod to the renowned television series Twin Peaks. Dougie Jones had become the embodiment of joy in our household. He was a precious creature with vibrant orange fur and a charming white belly. However, due to his mischievous tendencies and penchant for wreaking havoc, we rarely allowed him to share our sleeping quarters. His proclivity for causing destruction and indulging in his wild moments of feline frenzy, often referred to as the zoomies, had led us to enforce strict boundaries when it came to bedrooms, our bedroom sanctuary. However, fate had other plans for us on that eventful night. My wife abruptly awoke from her slumber, her voice filled with bewilderment as she uttered, "Bro, what the fuck?" Startled by her sudden awakening, I turned my gaze towards her, only to be greeted by a perplexing sight. Resting upon her chest, partially concealed beneath the covers, was a kitten. It was as if Dougie Jones himself had defied the laws of reality and materialized right before our eyes. I swiftly directed my attention toward the closed bedroom door, curious as to the source of the faint meowing that reverberated from the other side. As I returned my gaze to my wife, the mysterious feline that had rested on her chest had vanished, leaving no trace of its existence. Perplexed and filled with a sense of trepidation, I reached for a flashlight, determined to uncover the truth hidden within the shadows of our room. I meticulously combed every nook and cranny, my heart pounding with each passing moment. I checked under the bed, examining the side, and meticulously searched every corner of the room. Alas, there was no sign of the enigmatic apparition that had bestowed itself upon us. In the midst of my confusion and disbelief, a sudden realization dawned upon me, a revelation that sent shivers down my spine. The kitten I had witnessed on my wife's chest, albeit fleeting, was not Dougie Jones. It was an ethereal manifestation, an otherworldly specter that had taken on the form of a cat. The vivid image of its pristine white fur, veiled beneath the covers, was etched into my mind. How could such an inexplicable phenomenon occur within the sanctity of our own bed? As my bewilderment grew, so did my resentment towards this audacious entity. The audacity of this spectral interloper to infiltrate the sanctity of our slumbering quarters was simply unfathomable. Anger welled up within me, fueled by the invasion of our personal space. How dare this apparition manifest itself within the confines of my cherished resting place? The weight of the unexplained occurrences bore heavily upon my consciousness, the questions multiplying within my mind. Why had this cat-like entity chosen my wife as its ephemeral resting spot? What purpose did it serve, and what message did it seek to convey? The walls of my rationality began to crumble as I delved deeper into the realms of the unknown, seeking answers to the enigma that had unraveled in our midst. In the days that followed, my wife and I embarked on a quest for understanding. We consulted friends, sought advice from experts in the paranormal, and delved into the annals of folklore and mysticism. Each inquiry, each conversation, only served to deepen the mystery surrounding the spectral feline that had graced our bed that fateful night. Time passed, and the spectral visitation remained an unsolved riddle in the tapestry of our lives. However, amidst the confusion and unanswered questions, one thing became clear. We were forever changed by this inexplicable encounter. The boundaries of our perceptions had been stretched, our minds opened to the vastness of the unknown. It served as a stark reminder that in the realm of existence, there were forces at play that defied conventional understanding. As I recount this tale, the memories resurface with vivid clarity, and the room fills the air with an intrigue and a wonder. The enigmatic visitation of that spectral feline continues to linger in the recesses of my mind, an enduring testament to the mysteries that lie just beyond the veil of our everyday reality. And so I carry this experience with me, forever intrigued by the extraordinary, forever searching for the elusive truths that hide in the shadows of our world. Story number 4. The Light Under the Doorway. One fateful night, within the eerie confines of that same ancient and unsettling house, my slumber was abruptly interrupted by a cacophony of clamor emanating from the floor below. It resembled the boisterous revelry that accompanies a grand soiree, yet I had not been informed of any such festivity taking place. Intrigued and somewhat perplexed, I mustered the courage to extricate myself from the comforting embrace of my bed and embark upon a quest to ascertain the source of this enigmatic commotion. Gingerly, I flicked the switch, flooding my bedroom with a warm glow as the light fixture obediently responded to my touch. Venturing into the dimly lit hallway, I leaned over the wooden banister, my eyes fixed upon the descending staircase that led to the heart of the clamor. Strains of animated conversation floated upward, permeating the air, like an orchestral ensemble practicing an intricate symphony. However, the peculiar aspect was that I, the unsuspecting protagonist, had not been privy to this grand performance. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, I decided to eschew the illumination in the hallway, opting instead to navigate the obscurity with caution. My footsteps, hushed and tentative, carried me down the flight of stairs towards the dining room, the source of the radiant glow that emanated from beneath the floor. The flickering light served as a guiding beacon, urging me onward on my quest for answers. With bated breath and a sense of trepidation, I approached the door, anticipation coursing through my veins. Strains of raucous laughter mingled with unintelligible chatter grew louder with each passing step, drowning out the thoughts that raced through my mind. The chorus of voices, overlapping and intertwining, formed an incomprehensible tapestry of sound. As I summoned the courage to turn the doorknob, a surge of adrenaline coursed through my veins and I flung the door open with an audacious flourish. To my astonishment and dismay, darkness greeted my expectant gaze. A vast expanse of pitch-black void stretched before me, devoid of any semblance of life or revelry. Confusion etched itself upon my features as my bewildered mind struggled to reconcile the vivid auditory experience with the stark absence of physical presence. It was as if I had stepped into the realm of the ethereal, where reality and illusion danced an intricate tango. Overwhelmed by the profound sense of disorientation, I pivoted on my heel and retraced my steps, desperate to escape the enigmatic emptiness that had engulfed the room. Hastily, I sought solace within the confines of my parents' chamber, guided by muscle memory and instinct. The door, a portal to familiarity and safety, yielded to my trembling hands, and I stumbled into the familiar embrace of their bed. As I nestled into the familiar contours of their resting place, seeking solace within the soft embrace of the covers, my mind raced with unanswered questions. What phantom gathering had taunted my senses, teasing me with a semblance of mirth and festivity? How had the palpable energy dissipated into the abyss, leaving me bewildered and yearning for an understanding that seemed perpetually out of reach? In the stillness of that moment, I contemplated the enigmatic nature of the house, with its secrets hidden within the walls and its whispers carried on the breeze. Perhaps it was the embodiment of the Cheshire cat from the tales I'd previously encountered, its mischievous grin lurking just beyond the threshold of comprehension. Or perchance, it was the wooden hand, concealed beneath the dresser, beckoning me towards a realm where reality melded with fantasy. Thus, I found myself ensnared in the tapestry of the unexplained, caught between the realm of the seen and unseen, the events that might forever linger in the recesses of my memory, a haunting reminder of the mysterious wonders that inhabit the shadows. And as I sought solace amidst the comforting familiarity of my parents' bed, the enigma of that house continued to unravel, begging me to explore its labyrinth depths and uncover the truth that lay hidden within. The Dresser and the Wooden Hand. When I was around 3 years old, my family and I lived in an old farmhouse from the 80s. It had 2 stories and a rather eerie basement. You might recall my previous story about the Cheshire cat, which I shared about a year ago. During that time, my room was situated upstairs, the second door on the right. Let me describe the layout of my room to you. As soon as you entered, you'd see a dresser straight ahead, with the closet door to its right, blocked by some furniture. My bed was positioned against the wall on the left side of the dresser, and an armoire stood on the right of the bed. Other than these pieces of furniture, my room was devoid of any other items. Interestingly, my middle brother's room was located right next to mine, to the left. One night, it was getting late, and I had fallen asleep on the couch downstairs in the living room, wearing nothing but a t-shirt and underwear. Suddenly, my mom woke me up and instructed me to go to bed. I didn't have any objections to this, as I was feeling tired, so I sluggishly made my way upstairs, passing by the first door on my right, and finally arriving at my bedroom. To my surprise, the door to my room was wide open. As I attempted to step over the threshold and enter my room, I encountered an unexpected obstacle. I couldn't move forward. It felt as if an invisible wall was blocking my path, preventing me from entering. Frustrated and frightened, tears started streaming down my face as I began calling out for my mom. Luckily, she came upstairs in response to my cries. I managed to convey to her that my room wouldn't allow me to enter. She looked at me with a bemused expression and let out a small laugh. Curious, she asked me to explain what I meant. Through my sobbing, I told her about my unsuccessful attempts to enter the room and the invisible barrier that seemed to prevent me from doing so. While I continued bawling, feeling utterly exhausted and confused, I mustered the courage to ask my mom if I could sleep in my brother's room instead. My brother, awakened by my cries, glanced at my mom, then at me, before retreating back into his room and closing the door. Seeking to comfort me, my mom proposed the idea of checking my room for any lurking monsters. I nodded in agreement, surprised by her willingness to venture into the room herself. How could she do that when I couldn't? With a mix of trepidation and hope, I watched as she entered my bedroom. I stood at the doorway, unable to summon the courage to follow. Inside, she opened the armoire and peered inside, then proceeded to inspect the area under my bed. It's worth noting that my room was impeccably tidy, aside from a lone white sock with 2 red stripes lying on the floor in front of my dresser. While my mom was occupied searching under the bed, my attention fixated on the abandoned sock, visible from my vantage point at the threshold. Suddenly, to my shock and horror, a wooden hand emerged from underneath the dresser. It swiftly reached out and snatched the sock, disappearing back into the shadows beneath the furniture. I couldn't contain myself any longer. I screamed at the top of my lungs, my fear overwhelming me to the point of losing control. As my cries intensified, I even found myself involuntarily wetting my underwear. My brother emerged from his room, now exasperated by the commotion, and attempted to quiet me down. Meanwhile, my mom rushed over to kneel in front of me, desperately trying to calm me down as well. She inquired about what I had witnessed. Tearfully, I recounted how a wooden hand, matching the same medium brown color as the dresser, had emerged from beneath it and snatched the sock, right before retreating back into hiding. At that moment, my mom burst into laughter. However, she then turned around on her knees, apparently intending to inspect underneath the dresser herself. A wave of fear washed over me as I envisioned her being grabbed by the mysterious hand. Without thinking, I lunged at her, desperately trying to pull her away from the dresser. Of course, being a child, my efforts were in vain. However, upon seeing the sheer terror in my eyes, my mom finally understood the depth of my fear. In an attempt to reassure me, she decided to prove that there was nothing sinister lurking beneath the dresser. With a determined expression, she pulled the furniture away from the wall, revealing the space beneath it. To my relief, no hand was to be found. Instead, there sat the white sock with 2 red stripes, as if it had been forcefully pulled right up against the wall. Story number 6. Let's clear up the confusion. These 3 things are not the same creature. In the rich tapestry of cultural beliefs and mythologies around the world, there are captivating tales of supernatural creatures and entities that have fascinated generations. One such enchanting folklore exists within the Navajo culture, where the intriguing figure of the Skinwalker, known as InernalScreaming in Navajo, sorry if I can't pronounce that, holds both fascination and fear. As a prominent aspect of Navajo mythology, the Skinwalker is believed to be malevolent, which possesses extraordinary abilities. This nefarious being possesses the power to shapeshift, either into an animal or by disguising themselves as one. However, it's important to note that the term Skinwalker is never attributed to healers within Navajo society, but instead refers exclusively to those who harbor ill intent. Across vast territories of North America, specifically among the Algonquin tribes dwelling in the northern forests of Nova Scotia, the east coast of Canada, the Great Lakes region, and Wisconsin, another haunting presence looms large: the Wendigo. This mythological creature, or evil spirit, is deeply entrenched in the folklore of these First Nation communities. Depicted as a monstrous and malevolent spirit, the Wendigo possesses a distinct combination of human and spirit-like characteristics. It is believed to inhabit or possess an unfortunate human being, its dark influence driving them towards committing heinous acts. The allure of insatiable greed, murder, and even cannibalism becomes irresistible under the sway of this menacing entity. The Wendigo's terrifying presence reinforces the cultural taboos and societal prohibitions against such abhorrent behaviors. Among the myriad legends that continue to captivate our imagination, the werewolf emerges from the annals of folklore, leaving an indelible mark on our collective consciousness. Rooted in ancient tales, this creature of myth has been known by many names throughout history, including werewolf in Old English and lycanthrope, derived from the Greek term lycanthropos, meaning wolf person. According to these legends, a werewolf is essentially a human gifted with the extraordinary ability to shapeshift into a wolf. This transformation can occur intentionally or as a result of a curse or affliction, even triggered by a bite or a scratch from another werewolf. In pop culture, werewolves are frequently depicted as therianthropic hybrid creatures with attributes of both human and wolves, particularly in modern films. The concept of lycanthropy, the ability or affliction to transform into a wolf or wolf-like creature, finds its roots in historical accounts. Early sources that attest to believe in this supernatural phenomenon include the works of Petronius, a Roman author who lived from 27 to 66 AD, and Gervase of Tilbury, an English scholar and writer from the 12th and 13th centuries. Across time and continents, these captivating tales have been passed down through generations, captivating listeners and evoking a myriad of emotions. The allure of the skinwalker, the chilling presence of the Wendigo, and the transformative power of the werewolf continue to ignite our imaginations, leaving us pondering the enigmatic forces that dwell beyond the boundaries of our mundane existence. As long as humans are captivated by the mysteries of the supernatural, these stories will endure, fascinating and enthralling all who hear them. Story number 7. My paranormal experience with a doll when I was a child. I was born and raised in a quiet suburb of New Orleans called Chalmette, Louisiana. Our humble abode was a rented townhouse featuring 2 bedrooms at the back and a spacious living area with an attached kitchen up front. In our peculiar sleeping arrangement, my brother occupied one of the bedrooms, while my parents made their bed in the main living space. When I was around 7 or 8 years old, a memorable event unfolded during a camping trip that my father and brother embarked on with the Boy Scouts. With the boys away, my mother and I decided to indulge in a special girls' night, relishing in the freedom to stay up late and engage in various games and activities. Time seemed to fly by, and before I knew it, it was already 1 a.m. Yes, I know, quite late for a child of my age, but my parents were always somewhat lenient. It was as if in the late hour that I ventured into my bedroom, seeking another board game to continue our evening of entertainment, yet the instant I crossed the threshold, an indescribable sense of dread washed over me. The feeling was so intense that even now, as an adult, recalling the moment sends shivers down my spine. Tentatively, I made my way to the dresser where the board games were kept, sharing the space with porcelain dolls lovingly bestowed upon me by my grandmother. One of these dolls, adorned with an elaborate dress and perched upon a little stand, created the illusion of standing upright. As I approached the dresser, my unease grew, and I sensed that something was dramatically amiss. In a feeble attempt to reassure myself, I reached out and gently patted the doll's dress, uttering comforting words like, "It's okay, Dolly." Yet, the instant my hand made contact, an inexplicable occurrence unfolded before my eyes. One of the doll's delicate legs abruptly shot upwards, defying the laws of physics. The shock of this bizarre phenomenon overwhelmed me, and I unleashed a piercing scream as I sprinted out of the room, propelled by sheer terror. Years later, my mother disclosed that peculiar incidents were far from uncommon during our time in that house. Though my parents diligently shielded my brother and me from the truth, in one instance, a pan mysteriously hurtled off the stove, an event they downplayed as though it were an everyday occurrence. Cupboards would spontaneously swing open, lights would flicker of their own accord, a litany of inexplicable happenings that pervaded our lives in that dwelling. Although our stay in that eerie abode proved short-lived, I steadfastly refused to set foot in that room ever again. Thankfully, my compassionate brother assisted me in disposing of the doll, as we both instinctively recognized its potential role as a conduit for malevolent presence lurking within our home. Over time, I endeavored to uncover the history of that house, seeking clues that might shed light on the inexplicable occurrences that we had endured. Regrettably, any hope of unearthing the truth was thwarted by the devastating impact of Hurricane Katrina, which reduced the whole town to ruins, rendering any historical records or insights utterly unattainable. To this day, that chilling encounter with the possessed doll serves as a haunting reminder that there are realms beyond our comprehension, where dark forces can encroach upon our everyday lives. It's an experience that has left an indelible mark on my psyche, forever igniting my curiosity about the supernatural and instilling in me an enduring belief that there are things in this world that defy explanation. Story number 8. Loud crashing glass sound, but nothing broken. Around 18 years ago, a momentous time in my life was unfolding as I eagerly anticipated the arrival of my first child. The days were dwindling, and I found myself growing more and more anxious. Our cozy abode was a small house that housed not only my husband and me, but also our beloved cat and dog, who completed our little family. One evening, with my due date fast approaching, I sought solace and relaxation in my bed. The air was serene, and the peaceful presence of our slumbering dog, cat, and husband provided a sense of tranquility. Unfortunately, sleep eluded me, leaving me restless and wide awake. To fill the time, I resorted to reading, hoping to tire my mind and finally drift into a peaceful slumber. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a cacophonous noise reverberated through the house. It resembled the sound of a large glass vase, bowl, or even a window pane being carelessly dropped from considerable height. The unexpected jolt startled me to the core, causing an instinctive physical reaction that sent a sharp pang of pain coursing through my belly. I scrambled out of bed, momentarily surprised by the fact that my reaction didn't result in a puddle, considering my advanced state of pregnancy. Waddling as quickly as I could manage, I made my way toward the source of the commotion, which appeared to originate from the living room, dining room, and kitchen area, all seamlessly interconnected within our modest abode. The mystery unfolded before me as I diligently searched for any sign of the disturbance that had disturbed the peace of our humble house. With great trepidation, my eyes fell upon the exquisite extra-large Waterford vase that occupied a prominent spot in my room. I half expected to find it toppled over, the mischievous handiwork of our mischievous cat or energetic dog. To my sheer surprise, the vase stood undisturbed, flawlessly maintaining its designated place. Perplexed, I embarked on a thorough investigation, scouring every nook and cranny for potential clues. Yet, to my dismay, not a single object seemed out of place. Being a self-proclaimed neat freak, cleanliness and orderliness were ingrained in my nature, particularly during the nesting phase of pregnancy. I had anticipated discovering the culprit responsible for the disturbance almost instantaneously. However, much to my disbelief, everything remained impeccably organized, as if time itself had frozen within our house. Even the dishes in the dishwasher were neatly arranged, further perplexing me. Puzzled and disoriented, I retraced my steps, returning to the sanctuary of my room, hoping to find solace and clarity within its confines. As I pushed the door open, a peculiar sight greeted me. A solemn tableau of the cat and dog fixated on me with an inexplicable intensity. Uncharacteristically, neither of them budged an inch from their respective spots. It was as if they were waiting, patiently anticipating my return. To this day, the memory of that perplexing night haunts me, and the origins of that thunderous sound elude my comprehension. I had been wide awake, and there was no one else in the house but the four of us, like 4 chickens cooped up inside our abode. Curiously enough, my husband remained undisturbed by the chaos, blissfully lost in his own realm of slumber. It was as if he possessed the sleeping habits of a troll, impervious to the disturbances of the mortal realm. Initially, my annoyance had been directly towards the mere possibility of the prized vase being shattered into fragments, thus necessitating the arduous task of cleaning up broken glass, an endeavor that, given my condition, would have fallen to my husband. The late-night hour added another layer of inconvenience to the equation. However, as I stood at the threshold of the hallway, contemplating whether to investigate further, a profound sense of appreciation washed over me. Something deep within my gut warned me against proceeding, cautioning me to leave the enigma unsolved. Despite this inexplicable hesitation, my inner neat freak revolted against the idea of leaving a potential disaster unattended. The notion of shattered glass lingers in the house, demanding immediate attention, clashed with my ingrained need for orderliness. Story number 9. Pain in my body a night before my father's death. During those challenging months, my father battled with his critical condition, requiring constant medical attention. The arduous journey finally culminated in a devastating event that would forever be etched in my memory. The day prior to his passing, I mustered up the courage to visit him at the hospital. To my relief, my mother informed me that he was doing remarkably well. He had undergone a therapy session and had actively participated, even moving his legs and tongue with great effort. However, as fate would have it, I found myself grappling with an unexpected predicament during that visit. As I sat by my father's side, a wave of hunger overwhelmed me, prompting me to venture out of the hospital in search of sustenance. Little did I know that this seemingly innocuous decision would lead to a series of inexplicable events that would forever haunt me. After satiating my appetite, I was suddenly overcome by the overwhelming sense of fatigue. The exhaustion enveloped me, and I longed for nothing more than a moment of respite. Hastily returning to my room, I began to undress, eager to find solace in the embrace of sleep. However, as I removed my clothing, a sharp pang of pain coursed through my neck, shoulders, and arms, jolting me from my wariness. Instinctively, I rubbed my neck, hoping to alleviate the discomfort that had taken hold of me. To my surprise, I discovered small, palpable nodules scattered beneath the surface of my skin. Perplexed and disturbed by the discovery, I pondered their origin and the torment that they caused me. Despite my body's cry for rest, sleep eluded me that night. Instead, I found myself plagued by a different agony altogether. A throbbing ache surged through my knee, immobilizing it and rendering movement impossible. With great effort, I attempted to massage the joint, desperate to restore its function. Only then could I find solace and release from the torment that held me captive. As the night wore on, the pain seemed to migrate, finding its new dwelling within the confines of my groin. Agonizing and persistent, it left me bewildered and deeply concerned. The implications of this inexplicable suffering weighed heavily on my mind, clouding my thoughts and leaving me grasping for answers. Seeking solace and understanding, I confided in a close friend who had experienced the loss of her own father. In recounting the events of that dreadful night, I shared my physical afflictions, hoping she might offer some insight or familiarity with such an ordeal. To my astonishment, she revealed that she had endured a similar encounter. Like me, she had experienced unexplained pain following her father's passing, a revelation that struck a deep chord within my soul. Driven by an insatiable need for understanding, I embarked on a quest to seek out others who might have encountered similar circumstances. Desperately scouring the depths of the internet, I meticulously searched for accounts of individuals who had endured comparable physical and emotional trials following the loss of a loved one. Yet, to my dismay, my efforts yielded no fruit, leaving me disheartened and yearning for the solace of shared experiences. It is in this context, dear reader or listener, that I turn to you now in search of solace and enlightenment. Have any of you, in the vast expanse of your lives, encountered a similar phenomenon? Have you experienced unexplained pain, both physical and emotional, following the passing of a loved one? This quest for understanding and connection transcends language barriers, as I had sought similar experiences in Spanish but found none. In sharing my history and story, I hope to find solace in the collective wisdom of those who have treaded similar paths. The human experience is vast and profound, encompassing a myriad of tribulations and triumphs. By shedding light on our shared vulnerabilities, we can find solace in knowing that we are not alone in our suffering. Together, we can forge bonds of empathy, offering support and understanding to those who yearn most for it. Story number 10. I saw and heard it at the same time. Well, all right, let me tell you this crazy story that happened to me recently. It was one evening and I was engrossed in a lively online call with my dear friends. I had set up a little haven in my cozy bedroom, sitting at my trusty purple table with my laptop right in front of me, illuminating the room with its warm glow. The lights were on, creating a vibrant ambiance. As we chatted and laughed, completely immersed in our conversation, something bizarre occurred. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of movement, and I heard a distinct sound. My initial perception was that my dark brown leather tissue box had toppled over the edge of the table. Now, this had happened once before when I accidentally nudged it off, so it instantly registered in my mind as a familiar occurrence. Curiosity piqued, I glanced towards the source of the sound, expecting to see my trusty tissue box lying on the floor. However, to my utter surprise, my hand found nothing but empty air. It was then that the realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. My tissue box was never there to begin with. In fact, it was peacefully resting in the living room, in the possession of my dear mother. For a fleeting moment I paused, attempting to comprehend the inexplicable phenomenon that had unfolded before me. A chill coursed through my spine, and an unsettling feeling crept over me, tingling my senses. I couldn't fathom how I could have heard the distinct scratching sound of the box against the table's surface if it had never existed in the first place. Fueled by a mix of curiosity and fear and confusion, I quickly abandoned the comfort of my bedroom and dashed towards the living room, where my family members were gathered. Bustling into the room, my heart pounding in my chest, I could hardly catch my breath. Without hesitation, I addressed them urgently, my voice trembling with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Guys," I stammered, trying to keep my composure, "you won't believe what I just saw and what just happened. I swear with every fiber of my being I heard and saw something extraordinary. It was as if there was a dark hand or some mysterious object, roughly the size of a tissue box, right there on my table. I heard it slide from the edge, scratching the surface, so vividly that I instinctively bent down to retrieve it, thinking I must have accidentally pushed something." My family members exchanged concerned glances, clearly taken aback by the intensity of my words. They knew me well enough to discern that I wasn't one to easily succumb to fanciful tales or exaggeration, Yet, there was an undeniable earnestness in my voice, a profound conviction. As we huddled together sharing our thoughts and speculations, a sense of unease settled upon us. The notion that an invisible force had manifested in my room, imitating the presence of an object, sent shivers down our spines. We contemplated the possibility of a supernatural occurrence, a lingering spirit, or an unexplainable glitch in the fabric of reality itself. The incident left an indelible mark on my psyche, fueling my fascination with the unknown and prompting countless hours of research into the paranormal and metaphysical realms. I delved into books, articles, and online forums, hungry for answers, desperate to unravel the enigma that had unfolded in my own bedroom. Months passed, and though I never encountered another incident quite as perplexing as that late fateful night, the memory lingered, forever etched into the tapestry of my life. It served as a constant reminder that the world is far more mysterious and inexplicable than we may have ever comprehended. I became a staunch believer in the existence of unseen forces, forever fascinated by the ethereal and the unexplained. So, that's my extraordinary story, one that I continue to ponder and share with others, hoping to connect with those who may have encountered similar inexplicable phenomena. Life has a way of surprising us, unveiling its inexplicable secrets when we least expect them. And for me, that unforgettable encounter was just the beginning of an endless quest for understanding in the face of the unknown. Story number 11. Hearing church bells randomly at night in the Ozark Mountains. It was around a year ago when my mom first told me about the peculiar incident that had left her feeling unnerved. She shared with me that she had heard the sound of church bells ringing late at night, somewhere between midnight and 1 a.m. What made it particularly eerie was the fact that it happened on a random weekday, not a typical Wednesday when church services are commonly held in the southern parts of the United States where we reside. Living here for several years, my mom had never encountered the sound of church bells before, whether during the day or at night. It was truly an anomalous occurrence that left her puzzled. Fast forward to the present, and I find myself staying with my mom for a while. It was only about an hour ago when I stepped outside onto the porch for a smoke break. As I stood there enveloped in the tranquil night, I suddenly became aware of the faint sound of church bells chiming in the distance. The melodic peals echoed through the air for approximately 30 seconds before fading away. Intrigued, I remained on the porch for another 5 minutes, straining my ears in an attempt to catch a glimpse of those ethereal notes once again. Unfortunately, my efforts proved fruitless, and the silence prevailed. Glancing at my watch, I realized it was precisely 12:29 a.m., eliminating the possibility that these were mere echoes carried by the wind from a distant church. There was something more mysterious at play. Being unable to contain my curiosity, I promptly shared my recent encounter with my midnight church bells to my mom, who had woken up about 45 minutes prior, believe it or not. Her response was rather nonchalant, as if she had come to expect such phenomena. She nodded, acknowledging my experience, and revealed that she too had heard the enigmatic bells on a few occasions. Much like my encounter, she explained that they typically occurred between the hours of midnight and 1 a.m. However, she remained equally perplexed, unable to discern the reason behind these unexpected serenades. Having spent my entire life in the southern regions, where the resonant sound of church bells are a familiar occurrence, I found it peculiar that I had never encountered them in this particular town. Even when church bells do ring, they typically serve a purpose. They mark the passage of time, herald of the commencement of a service, or accompany significant events like weddings or funerals. Yet, the intermittent chiming of these bells on random weekdays, somewhere between midnight and 1 a.m., in the tranquil retirement town where even the house colors are regulated by the homeowners association, defied any logical explanation. Naturally, my curiosity led me to delve deeper into the matter. I began researching the significance and lore surrounding church bells, hoping to uncover some hidden clues that might shed light on this mysterious phenomenon. Could it be a part of some old-age tradition or forgotten custom specific to the Ozark Mountains, where our town was nestled? As I embarked on my quest for answers, I stumbled upon intriguing stories and fascinating legends associated with the enchanting tolling of church bells. Tales of ancient rituals, protective charms, and even supernatural occurrences captured my imagination. I discovered that in many cultures the ringing of church bells was believed to ward off evil spirits or announce the presence of a divine entity. They were said to possess the power to purify and cleanse the surroundings, infusing them with an air of sanctity and protection. Delving further, I unearthed tales of phantom church bells, where their ethereal melodies would fill the night air, often without visible source. These spectral chimes were attributed to restless spirits trapped between realms, or mysterious energies permeating sacred grounds. Legends whispered of hidden churches, long forgotten, existing in realms beyond our perception, where spectral priests would offer midnight prayers. Could it be possible that our town concealed such a forgotten church, lost in the annals of time, its chimes echoing through the mountains during the witching hours? Or perhaps, as some local lore suggested, there existed a connection between the church bells and the mystical heritage of the Ozarks, intertwining the spiritual and natural realms in ways that we could not comprehend. The more I delved into the stories and mysteries surrounding the church bells, the more I realized that our encounter with the midnight serenades was far from isolated. Numerous accounts from other towns and communities in the region spoke of similar experiences, where church bells would resonate mysteriously in the depths of the night, defying conventional explanations. It seemed as though the phenomenon transcended time and space, connecting people across generations in an enigmatic symphony of sound. As I pondered the implication of these findings, a sense of awe and wonder washed over me. The inexplicable ringing of church bells at irregular intervals began at midnight and 1 a.m. in our seemingly unremarkable retirement town, and this became a gateway to a world beyond our understanding. It was a reminder that mysteries and wonders still lingered, waiting to be discovered in the most unexpected of places. So, while I couldn't provide a definitive explanation for the midnight church bells that resonated through our town, I came to appreciate the beauty and intrigue that they brought into our lives. They served as a gentle reminder that there are realms yet unexplored, where the boundaries of the ordinary and extraordinary blur, and where the symphony of the unseen continues to play. Story number 12. Something was in my bathroom. During my junior year of college, an incredible opportunity presented itself, studying abroad in London. With great excitement, I embarked on this adventure, ready to immerse myself in a new culture and broaden my horizons. Little did I know that this experience would be accompanied by an unexpected encounter with the supernatural. Our accommodations were situated on the top floor of an 18th century home, which had been transformed into several flats. As my roommate and I settled into our studio flat, an eerie feeling began to envelop us. It seemed that a ghost had taken up residence in our bathroom, as objects inexplicably flew off shelves and an unsettling atmosphere pervaded the room. Despite our uneasiness, our fellow students dismissed our claims, attributing them to the overactive imagination of attention-seeking girls. However, 2 events occurred that convinced us of something truly peculiar was definitely unfolding. One morning, when preparing for classes, I stepped into the shower, relishing in the soothing warmth of the water, and suddenly I felt a gentle tap on my shoulder. Startled, I turned around, but there was no one else in the bathroom. Frozen with fear, I stood there, attempting to comprehend what had just occurred, when abruptly the water ceased to flow. Panic surged through my veins, propelling me to flee the bathroom in a frantic rush. It was later revealed that the water breaker had been mysteriously switched off. Considering my roommate's growing trepidation regarding the potential presence of a ghost, I opted to withhold this chilling incident from her. However, after enduring a week of mounting anxiety, I could no longer bear the burden alone and decided to confide in her. To my astonishment, her eyes widened as she divulged that a similar occurrence had transpired on the very morning of my encounter. She had refrained from sharing her experience, fearing that it would amplify my already heightened apprehension. Several weeks passed, and the specter's activities persisted, intensifying our distress. Engrossed in a conversation with my mother, seeking solace and guidance, I sought refuge in the stairwell. Seated on the steps, facing a wall, the other side concealed our haunted bedroom. My phobia of encountering an actual apparition drove me to voice my fears to my mother, uttering the desperate words, "If this entity were to reveal itself, I swear I would promptly vacate this place." No sooner had those words left my lips than the darkness descended upon the stairwell, shrouding it in an impenetrable blackness. For a few harrowing seconds, I was submerged in a terrifying void. Later, research informed me that when ghosts attempt to manifest themselves, they often draw energy from surrounding sources, resulting in an abrupt extinguishing of lights. Gripped by fear, I shared this unnerving incident with my mother, who offered a suggestion that would alter the course of our ghostly encounters. My mother proposed that my roommate and I visit the bathroom together and respectfully address the apparition. She advised us to say, "We acknowledge that our stay in this space is temporary, and after a few more months we will be returning home. We kindly request that during our visit we may coexist harmoniously within this dwelling." Intrigued and desperate for a solution, we followed her advice, hoping to restore tranquility to our lives. Miraculously, from that moment onward, all paranormal activity ceased within our flat. No objects were jostled off shelves, the lights functioned as they should, and the shower poured water consistently, and we were never again touched by invisible hands. It appeared that our plea had resonated with the ghostly entity, and it had chosen to respect our presence, and so, for the remainder of our time in that peculiar flat, peace reigned supreme. Reflecting on this extraordinary experience, I couldn't help but marvel at the peculiar circumstances that had unfolded. It was indeed disconcerting to contemplate the presence of a ghostly observer while engaging in the most mundane of activities, such as using the toilet. Nonetheless, this encounter with the supernatural served as a reminder of the mysteries that permeate our world and the unexplained phenomena that lie just beyond the realm of our comprehension. Story number 13. Ghost came back to haunt me 11 years later. When I was 11 years old, my family and I made the life-changing decision to leave Puerto Rico and embark on a new adventure in America. We settled into an apartment where my grandparents happened to work. It was an exciting but also slightly unsettling time for me as I navigated the challenges of adjusting to a new country and environment. One peculiar incident stands out in my memory. It was a regular day, or rather night, as I found myself abruptly awakened at the precise hour of 3:33 a.m. Feeling an intense thirst, I groggily made my way to the kitchen, only to encounter a sight that sent shivers down my spine. There before my eyes stood a tall figure, with its paper-white skin and dressed in a black suit. What disturbed me even more was the absence of a face. It resembled a store-bought mannequin, devoid of any facial features such as a nose or mouth. Strangely, the entity didn't emanate any malevolence. Instead, it seemed lost, like a bewildered child. Its vacant gaze met mine and for a brief moment stood still. It merely stared at me, as if seeking solace or direction. However, this eerie encounter was just the beginning of a series of inexplicable events. Soon after, peculiar knocks became a regular occurrence in my life. Every day without fail, I would hear 3 distinct knocks. It didn't matter where I was, in the apartment, at school, or even when I ventured outside. The entity with this enigmatic appearance would manifest itself, hovering above me. and continuing its unnerving ritual. The height of the creature was unmistakable, towering at approximately 8 foot 1 inches. Just as quickly as it had appeared, it would vanish, leaving me perplexed and mystified by its intentions. Years passed, and I managed to adjust to the persistent presence of this mysterious being. Eventually, my family decided to move out of that apartment, which marked the end of that particular chapter of our lives. Little did I know that the tale was far from over. Recently, to my astonishment, the same creature re-emerged in my life. However, it had undergone a transformation. Gone was the black suit and tie it once wore. Instead, it now adorned a striped long-sleeved shirt, coupled by a beige jacket and baggy tan shorts. The familiarity of its presence both comforted and unnerved me. Curiosity consumed me, and I embarked on a journey to uncover the true nature of this enigma that had haunted me for so long. It was during this time that my friends and I decided to conduct a Ouija board session in the eerie woods known for their tragic history of suicides. We hoped to make contact with supernatural entities and find answers to our burning questions. To our surprise, as the Ouija board planchette moved across the board, a force unlike any other surged through the room. The entity identified itself as Charlie, claimed to be the very being that had plagued me all these years. With cautious excitement, we asked Charlie if it was indeed the one responsible for haunting me, and to our astonishment, it confirmed our suspicions. In a strange turn of events, my perception of Charlie began to shift. I started to view this ghostly presence as something more than a malevolent force. It seemed to harbor a protective quality, almost like a guardian watching over me. Gradually, I developed a sense of friendship and trust towards Charlie, embracing its role in my life. However, my desire to communicate with Charlie more effectively grew. I yearned for a deeper connection. Yet, I felt apprehensive about resorting to a spirit box or Ouija board, fearing that such methods might inadvertently invite malevolent entities into my home, right? As I embark on this ongoing journey of understanding and friendship with Charlie, my benevolent ghostly companion, I am determined to find alternative means of communication. Perhaps through meditation, intuitive listening, or exploring the realms of metaphysics, I can establish a stronger connection with Charlie without compromising the safety of my surroundings. Though the path ahead is uncertain, I find solace in the knowledge that Charlie's presence, once a source of fear and confusion, has transformed into a mysterious yet reassuring force in my life. Together we continue to unravel the depths of the supernatural realm, forging an unconventional bond that transcends the boundaries of the physical world. Story number 14, The Man Without a Face. Years ago, when my family relocated to America, I vividly recall an incident that transpired on our balcony. While everyone else busied themselves with the moving of our belongings into our new apartment, I found myself captivated by an overwhelming sensation. It was akin to the primal instinct of prey detecting an imminent threat, or a deer locking eyes with a lurking wolf. Intrigued, I instinctively cast my gaze upwards, and there before me stood him, or rather, it. His countenance was an eerie paper white, contrasting starkly against the backdrop of his black suit. Strangely, his face lacked any discernible facial features. Instead, a mere suggestion of a nose, eyes, and a mouth graced his visage. Yet these features bore no openings, rendering them reminiscent of lifeless mannequins found in stores. My heart raced as I absorbed the unsettling sight, while he unflinchingly fixed his gaze upon me. Time seemed to stand still in that moment, and then, in the blink of an eye, he vanished into thin air. The intensity of fear engulfed my young self, and I instinctively sought refuge indoors, wordlessly retreating from the enigmatic presence on the balcony. Taking solace in the familiar confines of a chair, I attempted to steady my racing thoughts. However, mere minutes later, that disconcerting feeling began to creep back into my consciousness. A sense of impending danger descended upon me once more, and I glanced upwards, only to find him standing in the doorway of my room. His spectral form exuded an eerie aura as he silently observed me. Without uttering a single word, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the depths of the apartment. Intrigued by this uncanny encounter, I mustered the courage to confide in my mother several years later. As I tentatively shared the details of that chilling encounter, a peculiar look crossed her face. It was as if she had known of this enigmatic entity all along, yet chose to remain silent, withholding any further explanation. Her reaction left me with a lingering sense of mystery, compelling me to ponder the true nature of the haunting presence I had encountered that day. The memory of that surreal encounter is still in my mind, serving as a constant reminder of the enigma that once graced my presence. The questions surrounding that inexplicable being persist, and I find myself drawn back to that moment on the balcony, yearning for a deeper understanding of whatever that spectral figure truly was. The secrets of that encounter, shrouded in silence and ambiguity, continue to tantalize my imagination, leaving me to contemplate the existence of realms beyond our comprehension. Story number 15. No longer a skeptic after close encounter with the plasma orb. In April of 2011, a dear friend and I embarked on a mesmerizing adventure that would forever leave an indelible mark on our memories. It was a splendid night, dry and clear as we climbed up to my rooftop in the enchanting region of New Jersey. Our purpose? To immerse ourselves in the ethereal beauty of the Lyrids meteor shower. Eagerly anticipating the celestial spectacle of shooting stars cascading across the heavens above. Though the meteor shower didn't end up living up to our lofty expectations, we remained steadfast, our gazes fixated upon the celestial tapestry, hopeful that we would witness a few fleeting meteors every now and then. Several hours had passed, and our dedication to the celestial spectacle had not wavered. Suddenly, a burst of radiance caught the periphery of our vision, diverting our attention from the celestial expanse to the earthly surroundings. We turned our heads in unison, only to be greeted by a sight that defied explanation. A luminous beam resembling a brilliant blue-white LED flashlight, traversing the dense forest beyond the boundaries of our humble abode. In the depths of our subconscious, our initial instinct led us to believe that perhaps law enforcement personnel were pursuing a miscreant, wielding their flashlight as a beacon of justice. However, our perception swiftly shifted as we observed the light ascending, weaving its way through the leafy canopy, far above the forest floor. Bewildered and perplexed, we repeated the phrase, "What the fuck is that?" incessantly, struggling to comprehend the otherworldly phenomenon that was unfolding before our eyes. Gradually, the enigmatic light altered its course, aligning itself with the meandering path of the river flowing serenely behind my residence. It seemed as though the ethereal radiance acknowledged our presence, for as it traversed the rear of my house, it decelerated, eventually coming to a gentle halt. Then, in a breathtaking display of cosmic curiosity, the radiant entity executed a precise 90-degree turn, embarking upon the open expanse of our property a mere 40 feet from our quivering frames. A sense of imminent scrutiny permeated the air, as if the enigmatic presence had detected our presence and then sought to investigate further. It was at this climactic juncture that we were granted an awe-inspiring glimpse into the heart of the inexplicable. What materialized before us was an immaculately spherical entity, exuding an ethereal luminescence akin to a radiant basketball. Its core appeared to churn and undulate with flowing plasma, emanating an icy blue-white hue that pervaded the surroundings, casting an otherworldly glow in the process. Despite its captivating radiance, not a single sound emerged from this enigmatic sphere, further intensifying the inexplicable nature of the encounter. Overwhelmed by astonishment and trepidation, our vocal cords unleashed a torrent of terrified screams, unable to contain the flood of emotions that surged within us. With each passing moment, the enigmatic presence advanced towards us, albeit at significantly slower pace than when it had glided seamlessly through the verdant foliage. Its movements now exuded an air of caution, an unexpected juxtaposition to the initial swift traversal. Inexplicably, it seems as though the entity possessed an intention, a peculiar intelligence that manifested in its calculated approach. This realization intensified our already profound horror as the inexplicable truth dawned upon us. We were in the presence of an incomprehensible force, something that defied the boundaries of our knowledge and understanding. Sensing the inherent danger that lurked within this enigmatic encounter, we scrambled hastily off the rooftop, propelled by a primal instinct to seek shelter and solace within the confines of my home. Trembling like terrified children, we found refuge beneath the comforting blanket, though the cloak of fear shrouded us, despite our advancing age. Conversation regarding this extraordinary event became a taboo, as we were unable to fathom, let alone explain, the unfathomable force that had invaded our lives that fateful night. Approximately a year has passed since our nerve-wracking encounter with the enigmatic luminosity, when a neighbor, gripped by sheer panic, relentlessly pounded upon my door. His frenzied pleas for sanctuary resonated through the hushed ambiance of my abode, his words revealing a startling revelation. He and a companion had ventured into the very same patch of woods, nestled alongside the meandering river, and they had witnessed our inexplicable encounter. To their dismay, they too had found themselves pursued by a silent, ethereal orb of luminosity, a hauntingly familiar apparition that sent shivers cascading down my spine. This revelation startled me to the core, for I had never before divulged the details of my own encounter to this neighbor. In that moment, a profound realization gripped me. The enigmatic force that had trespassed upon our lives was not an isolated incident, but a recurring presence, traversing the boundaries of our perception and leaving behind a trail of bewilderment and trepidation. Story number 16. Who is he? 11 years ago, when I was still pregnant with my daughter, I experienced a peculiar incident that left me wondering about its meaning to this day. It was a splendid sunny afternoon, approximately around 2 p.m. I found myself sitting on the sofa, engrossed in watching television, eagerly awaiting the time to pick up my son from school at 3. In the midst of my leisurely TV session, I had a sudden urge to reach for the remote control, which had somehow managed to find its way to the other end of the sofa. As I leaned across, diverting my attention from the screen, I thought nothing of it. However, when I turned my gaze back toward the television, a chill ran down my spine as I beheld the sight of a man standing right beside it. This mysterious figure possessed black shoes, adorned light blue jeans, a yellow t-shirt, and light brown hair. Yet what struck me with an inexplicable fear was the fact that he had no face. It was as if his skin simply blended into nothingness. Initially, I attempted to rationalize the occurrence, wondering if it was a mere trick of the mind. I recalled how, when one looks away from a screen and rapidly blinks, the residual image remains temporarily imprinted on the retina. I attributed this bizarre encounter to the similar phenomenon and dismissed it accordingly. However, fate had a different plan in store for me. 2 weeks later, during another bright day, the enigmatic man materialized once again, this time on the periphery of the television screen. Unlike the previous encounter, he stood at a slight distance, lingering for what seemed like an eternity, but was probably no more than 10 seconds. Although this may appear negligible, the experience of witnessing something that defies all logic and shouldn't exist was eternally protracted. In my shock and disbelief, I instinctively looked away, only to cautiously redirect my gaze back to the television, to find that he had vanished. A year had passed since that haunting incident, and I had welcomed the arrival of my beautiful daughter into the world. It was during a blissful bank holiday weekend when my parents decided to go away, leaving me to house-sit in their absence. On that fateful night, as I stirred awake, A craving for a refreshing drink compelled me to make my way downstairs. The illumination in my parents' kitchen appeared unusually bright, reminiscent of the radiance of natural daylight. In their kitchen, there was another door adorned with glass panels, providing a glimpse into the adjacent washroom and downstairs bathroom. To my utter disbelief as I peered through the glass panels, there he was, once again, the very same man I'd encountered twice before. This time, his appearance lasted for around 10 seconds for sure, causing my heart to race with a mixture of apprehension and fascination. In an instant, he vanished, leaving behind an air of perplexity and fear. What struck me as particularly disconcerting was the realization that he had appeared in a different house altogether. I couldn't fathom how this enigmatic figure had traversed from my own home to my parents' abode, blurring the boundaries of time and space. In the years that have followed, I have never caught another glimpse of him. His transparent presence, coupled with his contemporary attire and hairstyle, continues to elude my comprehension. I find myself frequently musing over his identity and purpose. Who was he? Was he a figment of my imagination, a ghostly apparition, or perhaps something more supernatural? The lingering question remains, forever shrouded in mystery, haunting my thoughts as I ponder the unexplainable nature of that extraordinary encounter.